Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, happily ever after. Let's watch.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to make the decision to stay. Because Michael's got to own up what he's done. And if he don't...
Angie.
Michael.
Yeah? I need to talk to you. Angie.
Michael, I don't want to talk right now.
You need to talk.
Michael, don't follow me.
You are my wife.
I'm not ready for this yet. I didn't even want to be here, Michael.
You know I love you.
No, I don't know you.
Wow. It's so hard to watch. I mean, maybe Michael doesn't know all the things that she's done. I don't know. Of course, I'm not in this relationship. I'm not Michael. He must really love her or something, but let's go with he really loves her, so he's trying to make it work. It makes sense. It's really hard to understand why, though, from our perspective, but we're just seeing the worst of the worst, I think. But still.
You love me. What did you think was going to happen when you put an Instagram out? Tell me.
When Angela went inside the restaurant, I followed her because I want to talk to her. I think both of us make mistake. And I think Angela is only telling one side of the whole story.
All right, so what mistake did he make? I mean, you could argue that give me $5,000 if you want me to take my Instagram account down. You could argue that was maybe inappropriate. Maybe that was a lot of money he was asking for, or the way he was saying it. I don't know, but it's hard to point towards anything else other than that, right?
And she makes me look like a bad guy. Reason why I brought the Instagram up. If I make use of my social media for influencing, I get paid. I mean, that's all I'm trying to do, have an income, make money, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know if he said that before, but sounds reasonable, pretty obvious, really. Okay, so I have to not have hope. Well, I will have hope. I just will not have any expectations. How about that? I will always have hope. I will have hope, but I will not have expectations. I will actually have expectations. I will have very low expectations. So then emotionally, it's easier for me to cope with. Let's watch.
Huh?
I said no.
Since Angela refused to send me extra money, I have no choice than to start making money on my own. Because as a 34 years old man in Nigeria, I'm expected to take care of my family. I mean, in my culture, it is what we do, We work, we have responsibility, we have bills to pay.
Yeah, I don't imagine that he has to elaborate on his desire to make a living through being an influencer on Instagram. And we've heard no accusation from her regarding him doing anything untoward on Instagram. It's just that he has an Instagram account. So, yeah, you don't have to justify it to us, Michael. I think all of us are fine with it.
Is it a bad idea to have a double
You're not gonna
income?
have it.
I can't be staying here.
Then you make your choice. You want money?
We've been wait.
There's no reason. I don't give a goddamn about no money.
Wow. I don't. Every time I don't. Why do I not know who Angela is? Maybe in the past she would turn it around. There would be this de-escalation faster, a warming up of her at some point, but this time it's just unrelenting. So she kicks the table into him, and she's now at risk. She seems actually rageful right now, like she could tear his head off if the cameras weren't there, or I don't know. This is pretty dangerous. I hope this doesn't turn to violence. I don't want to watch that.
Money, bitch.
Calm down.
Bitch, you and your goddamn money, bitch! All right, so we'll use it as a learning tool. All right, so yeah, this is what it looks like if you've been in this.
you were in the middle of it, and now you can see it from the outside. If you've never been in something like this is a version of it, pretty common version of what we would call an abusive relationship. The just unreasonableness, essentially. So I watched the Amaranth. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but she was a Twitch, YouTube person, and she went on. I don't know if you watched my reaction videos, but she was in an abusive relationship, seemingly, allegedly, and as a way of outing her husband, who was allegedly abusive, she went live on Twitch, I believe, or YouTube or something, and she went on speakerphone with her husband. He didn't know that they were streaming, and he proceeded to display what seemed to be an abusive episode of their relationship. And so in that moment, we are witnessing something that we might not usually see, because abusive people usually know to not show it and to not do that in front of other people. Angela is doing something that is usually behind closed doors. We usually can't see this. And in that style with Amaranth, seemingly my hypothesis as to, because this often is the case with abusive people, it's not really about what they're talking about. What they're looking for is complete obedience, complete dependence, complete isolation in the victim. They just want complete control, because in this very weird way, they believe that attachment security and safety and balance is when they are in full control over another person. Essentially, not everyone is like this, not every abusive person, but they feel this constant sense that they're going to be abandoned, that they're going to be harmed by their partner. And they believe the only way they can eliminate any shred of risk regarding that, with any risk that's in their mind, is very anxiety provoking to them. They believe their only solution to that is if they have absolute control over their partner. Or another way to see it is that they want more control. So in the beginning of a relationship, they might feel generally, this is a common progression. An abusive person in the beginning of a relationship, they might want a little bit of control, but not total control. And when you give them a little bit of control in relation to the control that they had, they feel a little bit more safer. They're in this constant treadmill of getting more control. It's sort of like how, keeping up with the Joneses, materialistic people. They're always like, okay, I got to get to the next phase. I got to, buy that expensive house. Okay, I got to get that expensive car. And they never actually reach the finish line. They're always striving for something and getting a little bit of satisfaction at every step of the way. But soon their personality and their sadness and their insecurity and their attachment disruptions catch up with them, and then they have to run ahead to accomplish the next thing. And so for the abusive person, not every abusive person is like that, but a lot of people are. So in the beginning of the relationship, they just want a little bit of control. But once they establish that, their insecurities come rushing in, and then they try to get a little bit more control, and they feel a little bit safe, a little bit balanced, and then the insecurity comes rushing in, and then they want a little bit more control, a little bit more control. And so at some point, the victims will often put a line in the sand. It'll just be like, no, I can't do this anymore, or logistics dictate. And look at him. He's like hiding, I think, because he knows the cameras are there. It's really awful. So with Amaranth, it seemed like we had witnessed her at pretty far down the road, because allegedly he had total control over her body, what she wore on camera, over all the logins, over the business, over the empire, isolating her, trying to take away her phone, that kind of stuff, allegedly. And with Angela, she might be further down the road where she wants total control. And so the only thing that will get her to stop being abusive is if he says, okay, I will cancel my Instagram account, and I will admit that I was absolutely wrong. I'm so sorry. And so he is not giving in on that. And to us watching, we're like, what is the big deal? But that's the abusive mind. They are kind of delusional, not like schizophrenic delusional, but highly distorted. They do not see the world, at least in this moment, the way that any rational person would. They're just completely fixated on gaining control through this very minor thing, because you could argue that she has total control of everything else. She's standing over him. She has control over his body. She has control over his voice. She's literally not let him talk at all this whole season, on the phone, at the house, at the restaurant, here. Like, she is in total control when we look at it, but she just wants more control. And so for Amaranth, it seemed as though he just wanted her to not talk. He didn't want her to say anything. He kept saying those things like, "You're interrupting me," right? And once she gave up that control and she said, okay, and she just stopped talking and she stopped crying, then he started to de-escalate. But every once in a while, she would throw out another line in the sand of just like, well, I don't understand why you threatened to kill my dogs, or I don't understand what you're saying. And then he would escalate again. But if she didn't do that, and she let him bulldoze all over her, and she was an obedient partner, then, and maybe even gave up a little bit more control, like, I don't know what he was exactly looking for, maybe control over her dogs, I don't know. But then he might have calmed down, I don't know. But that was seemingly what he was looking for, right? Which doesn't make any sense, right? Because why would you need that to feel secure? It doesn't make any sense. It's the opposite, right? Because you're actually pushing someone away in a lot of ways. So for her, similarly, probably, I don't know, hypothetically, speculatively, she is looking to eliminate that last vested, or she got control over that, right? And now he's pushed back a little bit because it's like, can't I earn money? Is that okay? And because that's a backstep in control, it explains everything that she's done this entire season. Because that's really the only thing that she is upset about, is that he has an Instagram account. And there are two elements here. One is that he has a job, and two, he has money, and I guess three, he has contact with people, right? And four, I guess he has power, because when you're an influencer, right, you have sway on your fans, right? So this is definitely a step backward. But so keeping that in mind, let's rewind and watch, because she's willing to sit there. And she's, I think, hoping that he'll say, okay, Angela, I'll cancel it. And I'm guessing then she would actually relent. But because he's not doing that, she escalates.
Is it a bad idea to have a double
You're not gonna have
income?
it.
I can't be staying here.
Then you make your choice. You want money?
Wait.
So she's trying to plead. She's trying to be nice in her way. Of course, she explodes, but you heard her, what she's saying. She's like, I have the money. Okay, you want money? I have money. Now, of course, she wasn't giving him money. That was the whole reason why he started an Instagram account, I think. And so, so let's rewind that. You can hear her trying to nicely get control, and when that doesn't work, that's when she tries other means. But let's rewind.
Is it a bad idea to have a double
You're not gonna have
income?
it.
I can't be staying here.
Then you make your choice. You want money?
We've been. Wait.
There's no reason. I don't give a goddamn about no money, bitch.
Calm down.
Bitch, you and your goddamn money, bitch. You opportunist?
Of course not. Why can't you trust me either?
Why can I trust you? Because
So, okay. Now, logic does not play a role here, because she's saying, you're an opportunist, you're scamming me, because that's what it feels like to her. And anyone watching this would say, it's the opposite. If he was scamming you, then yeah, he would not want to work, but he wants to work. Being an influencer it's not like a walk in the park. You have to do some work at the very least, and often a lot of work. So he's saying, I want to earn my own money, meaning I don't want to scam you. I don't want to be completely dependent on you. It could be argued him working, doing what he can to earn money, and it could be argued, I don't know, but I often hear that for a lot of these individuals, this sort of job, an influencer, even though compared to influencers from other communities, they're not making very much money, but compared to opportunities in their community in real life jobs, it's, 10, 100 times more money than they would make otherwise. So it could be his fastest way to make any kind of money. And for him to do that, it's like, anyway, so, but remember that there's a possibility that the only answer that she is looking for is him to not have any money, him to have no job, him to not be on Instagram. That's the only way. And he knows that, right? Because she's made that very clear. And so all this bluster and abuse and threat would go away if he just said, "You win. I will close my Instagram account." So it's actually a very interesting microcosm of an abusive relationship, of an abusive moment, because it can be really confusing when you're in it, when you're being victimized by it. You're just like, I don't understand, especially when there's no one around, because I'm guessing Michael at least has the benefit of having other people around to comment on it, right? But usually when you're a victim, you're completely isolated. So you're just like, I don't understand. And eventually you become gaslit. You just become convinced of the abusive point of view or swayed in that direction. In fact, you could kind of see with Amaranth, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, she seemed to be kind of on the fence about things. She's like, I don't understand. She'd push back. Well, it was interesting because she would push back when he was threatening her dogs, seemingly. But a lot of other things she didn't see. In fact, he would threaten to leave her, and it seemed like that was a frequent thing, and she didn't seem like she wanted him to leave. So when you get broken down like that, it's hard to think straight. So when we watch this, we might be able to help ourselves notice these sorts of things if we're in it in particular, and if we run into this in our life. And there are smaller versions of this. You don't have to be this over the top to be in an abusive relationship, but it's always useful to think like, okay, what are they really looking for? Don't just listen to the words, listen to the emotion, listen to, answer the question to yourself, what would get that Angela, in your life, what would get them to not yell at me anymore? They're using all these words, but what would get them to not do this? And if it's something that doesn't make any sense, then you know that you're in a very nonsensical situation, which I think this is. And at the very least, you'd be able to know that. And then, of course, if you are in an abusive relationship, National Domestic Violence Hotline, or calling a local therapist, a local domestic violence advocacy agency, a shelter. Calling 911 is another venue for you. Getting help, getting connected with a community of people that can coach you. They might even help you to extract yourself over the span of a few months in secret, especially if you have kids, they can, or pets, there's a whole system available typically in American communities that will be there to help you to, in a very systematic way, in a secret way, in a safe way, to not only explore the option to leave, but also to, when and if you make that decision, to actually get out. And I will say that sometimes people will go, so one of the things that victims will get hung up on sometimes is like, well, I don't know if I want a divorce. I don't know if I actually want to break up. I just want the abuse to end. But if I leave, which is best for me, I might really bother my partner, and we might actually get a divorce because they might not ever want to be with me again. And what I'll say is to people in that situation is, every situation is different, but the key is you have to be safe. You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be free to do and think and act the way that you want to be. And so if that requires getting out of the house, and if that requires going to a shelter, then that's what it requires. It seems severe, but everyone deserves safety. And if your partner is an incursion on your safety, then yeah. And know that mildly pushing back can cause more abuse and or severe behaviors, I'm just going to say it, like murder. That can happen sometimes. We understand that. So you have to be careful, especially if there are alcohol and guns involved. Anyway, so as an option, you can extract yourself, go to a shelter, And then you can begin the healing process potentially. And I've done that with couples before. Once everyone's involved in the system, sometimes the abusive person will realize their attachment security and will break down and say, I don't want this. I don't know. Yeah, I've tried everything I can, but give me help. And so we will reach out to those individuals, give them their own individual therapist, their own team of people. And when that happens, they're given an opportunity to begin change. And then with monitoring and oversight from a team, a professional team, reconciliation is potentially possible if the victim wants to do that. So leaving them doesn't mean it's completely over. There's a number of different things that can be offered to the abusive person. If you want to, as a victim, you might not. You might actually extract yourself and say something like, yeah, I'm done. Like Amaranth kind of seemed that way, at least initially, because when they're on the phone, she's like, I don't want to break up or something like that. Or at least it seemed like there was something along those lines. But then a few days later, she's like, yeah, I'm done. I've completely separated myself. So sometimes a little bit of space, you're just like, what was I thinking? And so I say all that not as a recommendation, but at the very least as an option in your head so that you can extract yourself maybe a little bit more easily. Anyway, so keep all that in mind. What's the requirement here? What is she really asking for? Let's rewind.
Yeah.
Then you make your choice. You want money?
We've been, wait.
There's no reason. I don't give a goddamn about no money, bitch.
Calm down.
Bitch, you and your goddamn money, bitch. You opportunist?
Of course not. Why can't you trust me either?
Why can I trust you? Because you are untrustable.
Now, he did cheat on her, so that's a fact, but that in no way justifies any of this, okay? And sometimes that's another thing to think about. If you are a victim, sometimes you've made mistakes. You've cheated, or one time you flew off the handle. You might have even hit your abuser or something. And the abusive individual will hold that over your head. It's not that they're saying they're hurt by it or that's part of it, but they know it's a tool. They know they can get under your skin and control you more. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.